This video is supported in part by Storyblocks. Hello, welcome to another Make Thrift Buy episode. This is the show where you send in suggestions of mass-produced, super expensive, or just plain weird fashion things that you found on the internet, and then I try my best to recreate them. Today's suggestion was sent in by Emily, who wanted to see me recreate these really interesting? Yeah, we'll go with interesting sock boots. By the anti-fashion, high-fashion meme brand Vetements, these sock boots featuring a unicorn heel stick it to the man by only costing you a cool $1,500. So cheap, right? But as it turns out, the internet figured out how to recreate these sock boots for even cheaper, basically as soon as they hit the runways last year. The Man Repeller showed just how simple it was to DIY these back in April of 2016, and when Kanye West also released a line of sock boots, an Instagrammer called The New Vogue made these for a lot cheaper as well. This DIY is so easy, simple, and cost effective. There is a bunch of people who've recreated this look already. So, Annika, why are you here then? Are you here to tell us how to use Google? Well, no, I'm not, because there's one thing that hasn't, to my knowledge, been the subject of any DIYs, and that is the particular heel on this boot, the unicorn heel. I may not be a huge fan of the sock boot look, but I am pretty fond of that magical unicorn heel. So, let's get started. Alright, let's do the easy part first. I thrifted this simple pair of black heels for $2, and I also found this pair of sports socks, I think, for $5 at the thrift store. The color seemed pretty similar to the original boots. I don't know who the heck Eds are. My guess is that they're a random local sports team that I'll now be repping. Go Eds! I popped a shoe on and I pulled one sock over the toe of the boot, pulling them on all the way. Then I took them off because it was too hard for me to stretch the sock over the heel while I was wearing them. So with the shoes off, I stretched the socks up over the heel and I made sure the sock was pulled up as far as possible, and then I snipped a tiny hole with some scissors right where the heel is. Note that the hole is much smaller than the actual heel width because socks stretch. I stretched the sock up as far as possible around the heel, and then I cut small slits at the back and the front to widen the hole slightly while continuing to pull the sock up until the hole was wide enough to get to the top of the heel. This frayed sock looks pretty bad around the edges, so to make it look a little bit more schmick, I grabbed some fabric glue. I prefer this kind of glue over hot glue gun or craft glue because it's specially made to fix fabric both to other fabrics and to basically any other surface as well. So I painted fabric glue around the hole, then I folded the raw frayed edges underneath like this all the way around the hole. And because these are slippery socks and combined with high heels is just a face plant waiting to happen, I latticed some hot glue across the sole of the shoes. And now I won't slip over when I wear them. Other people have suggested attaching a circle of sandpaper to the bottom of the shoe, but I didn't particularly want to scratch up the wooden floors in my rental house. And it's also possible to buy these non-slip shoe pads, which I think would be the perfect option because they're specifically meant not to mark floors and stop you from falling over at the same time. Or if you're feeling thrifty, an old non-slip bath mat or an old yoga mat cut up to the shape of the bottom of the shoe could work as well. But anyway, now onto the unicorn heel. So the heels on the original Vetements shoe are not only unicorn themed, but also shaped like a cigarette lighter. And I got these shoes before I realized that I wanted to make this unicorn heel. And there's no way that I'm gonna make these cone-shaped heels look anything like a cigarette lighter, but I can definitely still unicorn them up. Also, don't smoke, kids. So to make this space unicorn heel a reality, first I needed to make a space unicorn graphic, so I headed over to my favorite royalty-free graphics website, Storyblocks. Storyblocks is sponsoring this episode, but all opinions are my own. Ambitiously, first I made a search for just space unicorn, but that was a long shot. Still, this was surprisingly kind of close, but I wanted a more active looking unicorn, so I continued my search. Anyway, next I found myself a handsome looking unicorn, some great spacescapes, and a lens flare, and then I got to work composing an image out of these. Now, if you did have shoes with rectangular block heels and you wanted to turn it into a cigarette lighter, but remember, don't smoke, kids, you'd want to make an image that looks like this, print out two, and then wrap it around the heel. And in case anyone wants to recreate this heel, I have made this image available to download on my website. Just resize it to roughly your own heel's measurements. But I like to make things unnecessarily complicated for myself, and I have this more complicated shaped heel to work with. So I made a bunch of measurements and calculations with the heel, and I ended up with a heel design that looks like this. This will be the inside of the heel, and this, the outside. The unicorns will be visible from the back. I did leave the lighter part up the top here just to see what it would look like, just in case, but I will be getting rid of that later because nobody owns a lighter that's shaped like this. don't smoke kids. Before printing them out, I also increased the height and width of the heels by 10% to make sure that I'd have enough of the print to work with, and I printed out some extra space scenery too, just in case. I printed these out onto Leslie Riley's transfer artist paper, which is material transfer paper. And then I cut these pieces out. Next, I'm going to transfer them to leftover scraps that I had of this canvas material. To transfer the images to the fabric, I covered them with some silk organza to prevent the fabric burning, and I pressed down on them hard at maximum heat setting, no steam, for 20 to 30 seconds, which transferred the design, and then I cut them out. To apply the design to the shoe, first I covered the inner heel with fabric glue, and I pressed the inner heel design down onto it. Where the fabric overhung the heel, I made small incisions in the fabric and I pasted them down to the sides of the heel like this. But with the outside heel, I realized that I hadn't accounted for the curvature of the heel, which left a gap in the side here. So then I figured out the actual shape that it would be when it's laid flat by draping bits of fabric down onto the heel, tracing around them with some pen, adding more pieces of fabric to this template with glue until I had this. And this is the actual shape of the outside heel when it's laid down flat. So back in Photoshop, I made a shape like this. The reason it's not curvy here is that I just wanted to make sure I had enough space-scape to work with. And I printed it out again, and I used the template from before to cut it to the right shape. After transferring each design to canvas again, I painted the outside heel with fabric glue, and I carefully wrapped the space unicorn design around the heel. This was a little bit tricky, but with lots of adjusting, and by cutting small slits in the edges of the curves of the fabric, I was able to lay it down onto the heel smoothly. And then I cut off the excess bits with my tiny pair of embroidery scissors. While I was doing this, I realized that it would have looked a little bit neater around the top of the design if I had done the heels first and then put the socks on afterwards. But I think that seeing as I was making this all up on the spot, it turned out pretty good. Lastly, I wanted to seal the design and make it last a bit longer, so I grabbed this water-based sealant, Mod Podge, and I painted a thin layer over the top of the unicorn heels. This makes them more weatherproof, not that sock boots were ever going to be a good idea to wear while splashing around in puddles, and it also gives the heels a subtly shiny finish. So that's it. I'm done. Question is, how did I go? Yeah, so I'll admit that the shoes still haven't totally won me over. I was also having a little bit of trouble styling them. At first I thought that I'd try and keep it simple by pairing them with a little black dress, but that didn't really work for me. So then I thought, why not go all out and make a matching space unicorn t-shirt and wear a beret that perfectly matches the color of the socks? Maybe? Yeah. Now I've got that ironically self-conscious I'm so street fashion, don't care what I wear, might as well have DIY'd it, I'm so anti-establishment, but I paid $1,500 for this Vetements look. Except that we did make this for ourselves for about $10. So I guess we've come full circle. Or maybe Vetements already has that one covered. I don't even know anymore. All of that is moot anyway, because I can't walk in heels for the life of me. But at the very least, it was all worth it to end up with this unicorn t-shirt, which I am very fond of, and I'm wearing as I record this voiceover. And as for the shoes, well, I learned a lot from upcycling them. I can always chalk them up to DIY experience, but who knows, maybe one day I'll be invited to a fashion week and then I can blow everyone's minds with these babies and how effortlessly, ironically anti-fashion I am. So, what do you all think about this whole super ironic anti-luxury dress like a poor person but only if you have thousands of dollars trend? Is it a clever bite at capitalism and consumerism? Or does it accomplish exactly what it claims to be against? Is that the point of it? Are they trolling us all? Do I just not get it? Is there anything to get? I know you're all smart cookies, so I'd really like to see some discussion down in the comments below. Okay, so apart from sending me into a bit of an existential crisis, obviously this episode wasn't a super serious Make Thrift Buy recreation, but I think that I did a pretty good job of recreating these nonetheless. So I'm gonna call this a... Yeah, and if you do want to make these but you don't want to do an outrageous unicorn heel, then sock boots take literally about 5 minutes to make for yourself with a pair of socks, sports socks or otherwise, a pair of high heels, scissors, and some fabric glue. I actually think if you don't spend thousands of dollars on them, they can look pretty cool. But bonus points for adding a wacky design to the heel as well. Obviously, there's some things which are done slightly better in the original. I mean, you'd hope so for $1,500. It has proper soles, for instance, and so it is overall probably a little more weatherproof than mine. I mean, a little. Both are still socks. But if we're looking at this solely from a cost effectiveness point of view, I think that my boots win. And they certainly have that DIY shabby chic appeal, because they're actually DIY. Plus, with this green pair being out of stock anyway, even if you did have a spare couple of thousand to blow, making them for yourself is probably your best bet to get your hands on them. This video is sponsored by Storyblocks. Storyblocks provides high quality photos, vectors, icons, and more that are all royalty and copyright free, so you can use them in anything that you want. Seriously, they are a really useful service if you work for or run a business that has any graphic design component, if you run a website or a YouTube channel. I personally use them a lot in my videos, my end cards on Instagram, and even in things like t-shirt designs as well. When you're signed up, you can download and keep any of the 400,000 images in the member library. And they also have a new marketplace. In the marketplace, designers and artists license their images. And not only does this help artists sell their work, but being a Storyblocks member will give you 60% off any of these if you want to use them for yourself. Storyblocks is giving away a 7-day free trial through my promo link so that you can try it out for yourself. So click on the link in the description box below to start downloading images today. Thank you so much to Storyblocks for sponsoring this video, and thank you to all of you for supporting the companies that support this channel. Anyway, that's it for this episode. I'll see you all in my next video. Bye! Thank you to all of my supporters on Patreon for making this video possible. To become my supporter, go to patreon.com/Annika Victoria.